could have sworn, Adam, I just heard somebody say my name from back there. I thought it was you. That's why I said you ready. And then you're right there. That's weird. That's weird. That's weird.
He doesn't even know your name.
That's weird. I know where.
For your good. Adam, I gotta fess up. You told me that you weren't very smart. And I was supporting you all the way through your team.
Oh, well, thanks. You don't have to do that, but I do my best. I do my best.
Let's do it now, because if I do it later,
Okay.
you'll get mad.
Okay. Do it now.
No, I'm talking about the selfie.
Oh, so? Yeah. I thought you meant let's start now. I was like,
Oh, man.
you're hilarious. You're like, well, you wouldn't even dare me to do it.
No, so funny when I said that, you go, no, I wasn't mad.
I was like, no, Jimmy, it didn't hurt my feelings.
All right, step off the stage.
Okay.
We can do a pop pre-roll on the video.
Adam, you do attract a wide range of bugs.
These amazing dogs. Oh, the dogs. Yeah.
Sitting up so straight looking at me. Look at her paying attention. I'm like, what are you trying to do?
Ready? We ready? We rolling? Are we rolling? How you doing? Okay, look. It's the Conscious Life Expo 2024. This is Friday. We've got a long weekend in front of us. We're kicking things off right now with Adam Apollo. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, but wait, I'm going to say it one more time. How you doing? Much better, much better. Did you guys feel the earthquake? How crazy is that? That right there, I think Adam caused it.
Yeah, it was our fault.
I think Adam, and now I'm going to say this. I'm going to make this brief because we started a little bit late. I want to get Adam up on the stage. Adam and I have an appreciation for all things strange, all things weird, and all things science. And I know that we are crashing head on. These two trains are barreling down the tracks and are about to smash into each other. And in my pursuit of knowledge and what I do, and I've done thousands of interviews, TV shows, movies, radio, it's my job, it's my life, and it's a pursuit of knowledge. And I've seen the strange things. I've done all that. And as I seek knowledge, like all of you here, we're all on our own personal journey, I keep bumping back into science. And then I meet Adam Apollo. And Adam and I start talking, and I'm realizing that his journey and mine are not only similar, but they're the same. And they're the same for all of you. It's the same journey. We have a personal experience that has brought us here together on this day, February 9th, right here in Los Angeles. We're all here for the same reasons, okay? And beyond that, we're all here to welcome the 2024 Conscious Life Expo, kicking off keynote address. I want to bring to the stage Mr. Adam Apollo. Adam, come on up here.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thank you so much. Yeah, he's not joking. We were on a sound healing and frequency panel, and we just started talking about how extra low frequency waves can vibrate the human's internal organs in the body. And suddenly the whole room was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I was like, okay. I think, did you guys, all right, we just proved the point there. Consciousness, sound, there is a connection. This is magic. It is happening. We are in this journey. But of course, today, and in this journey I'm going to go with you guys on, I am not going to be talking about sound so much. I'm going to be taking you all on a journey to what it could look like and how we can actually take and transform the population, the mainstream, the big masses, and actually turn them into planetary stewards. To actually create a society and a culture around planetary stewardship. And what that actually looks like and what that actually means. This problem, it runs deep. We've been essentially in a process of just really wrapping our heads around, getting our minds around the action of the fact that I can pull a device out of my pocket and I can talk to anyone anywhere in the world at any time. Like, it wasn't very long ago you couldn't do that. It wasn't very long ago you couldn't be real-time live recording you and your buddy as you're hanging out on the beach on some island somewhere in the middle of nowhere and be broadcasting that to the planet. It wasn't very long ago that we didn't have the internet at all. I grew up without it. And experiencing the world that we have now, the world that is interconnected, the world that has the capacity to communicate with and through everything and everyone all at the same time, has brought up some challenges, some predicaments. But it has also given us a huge opportunity, a capacity to change everything and to change the way that we choose to live and work with our world. So to start off, I'm going to play a little video here and just want to ask, what's wrong with the social networks that we have here in the world today? If we're so connected, how come we all feel more separate, lost in information overwhelm, like we can't keep up? And why is it that our personal data is considered a product that only earns money for the highest bidders out there? Why do massive corporate entities insist that it's okay for them to sell information about our private behaviors and encourage abuse of that information to earn them more money? How can we take our data back? And what about the news? How can we access information that we trust? How can we leverage our collective intelligence to find some sense of truth among the agenda-laden information cannons blasting us with clickbait? It's time to free the web once and for all. It's time to give people sovereignty over their data core and empower them to leverage their own trusted networks. It's time for people to become, again, the nexus of their networks, earning currencies of all kinds from their participation in the global community and taking a stand for planetary stewardship. But before we can truly grasp how to accomplish this kind of feat, we have to understand the nature of the problem in more depth. Government, it's not going to do it for you. We all know how slow the bureaucratic process and decision-making process is, right? When I was young, I was a young speaker at the White House in the United Nations. This was over a decade ago. And I sat with White House aides, and they looked at me right in the eye, and they said, "We can't make the change in here. You're going to have to make the changes out there that you want to see in the world." This was during the Obama administration. And so, we're young kids in there going, well, okay, how the heck do we do that? And then you've got this idea that, donations to charity can make all the difference. Well, take something like Amazon Smile. A lot of us use Amazon Smile to make donations, but only 0.5% is what actually is donated. It's not deductible by you. It costs nonprofits money to be part of the program. Is this like a classic baiting technique? I mean, I'm sorry, Bezos, this is not doing the job. And then we have aid money, right? We've got large charitable organizations that essentially shotgun money out there to make a difference in the world. But what happens is that a lot of that money goes to things that people don't even need. There's literally giant crates of just like Nike shoes dropped off in a place where they might not even need shoes, right? And so we have to start listening. We have to start paying attention to what actually can work. And what does work? I mean, we've been around this planet for a long time. So what do we know actually moves the needle, actually makes a difference for people and for the environment and for the world, like on a day-to-day basis? It's groups of people coming together and working together to do something to make change. Like real life social networking. Like, let's connect, let's go down this river, let's clean it up, let's take some selfies, and let's feel really, really good about ourselves. But of course, for most people, this is out of reach. They got a job to do. They got to go to work. They got to get their McDonald's job or whatever. Or, you know, that's like, I've got a choice. I can either make my $100 on Thumbtack or I can go clean up the river. Well, I'm going to choose the Thumbtack job, aren't I? I'm going to choose the Uber job or the Lyft job. And that is what we see right now. We're going to get into that vocational economy a lot more. But it's not that there's a shortage of desire or effort for planetary change. In 2012, I built an organization called Unify. We built Unify up to a point where we had 1 million followers. This was within 6 months of December 21st, 2012, when we did our first big global launch event. We had events in Chichen Itza and Stonehenge and the pyramids in Egypt, where I was with a bunch of my friends, and Jerusalem and cities all over the world. And we were on Facebook, right? Built this platform behind the system to track and map everybody everywhere, and essentially used Facebook as one of our main social connection methods. We got to 1 million followers, and what happened? Facebook decided, oh, you're growing really fast. Well, let's just take all that organic growth and shares that you're making, and we're just going to cut the throttle. They cut our reach overnight. We were growing thousands and thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of new followers every day. And one night, spring of 2013, it flatlined. It just stopped. We're like, what's going on? It took us 3 weeks to get a hold of somebody at Facebook to actually talk about the problem. And you know what they said to us? They said, sir, yeah, I know, that's actually like pretty good, you know, honestly, considering how hard it is to reach some of these companies. They said, sir, we have implemented a new business program, and we're so happy to make sure that you ensure you continue to reach your following. All you have to do is pay us $50 to $100 a day. It's our new support system to make sure you succeed. We're like, you do know that we were virally spreading through people sharing organically, you know, and it's my buddy, you know, Mark Healy, who's on the phone with them. He's like, what are you talking about? We're organic growth. Like, this is people sharing with people. Like, you can't just take it away. You know, and they're like, sir, but this is our new business program, and all you have to do is, like, they're like holding our network hostage. Not just our growth, but then very quickly, next thing you know, Facebook implements boosts, right? And it's like, oh, if you even want to reach that 1 million followers, you better pay. Because if you don't, we're going to throttle it down. You'll reach a couple hundred people and bleh, you know, barely going to make a dent, barely going to make an impact. So we started to realize that this is a mafia, that there's a social network mafia controlling the system. And I started to wonder back in those days why that is. Like, who would do this? And I was already interested in decentralization. I was already interested in the early days of Facebook of the idea that big, gigantic, centralized corporations controlling our communications on the planet might not be the best idea. Like, because there are agendas and there are politics and there are a lot of things. So I started looking at what it is that causes these companies and organizations to do this. Because get real, Unify was just unifying millions of people to come together to make an impact on World Water Day, International Day of Peace, Indigenous Peoples Day. We literally, that's what we do, is go make a difference in the world, right? And they took us and cut us, right? Cut our heads off. So the answer is that we've connected the idea of profit with how data is exploited. If you can take from people their data and sell it and make a profit from it, boom, you've got a business model. And then what happened is in Silicon Valley, unethical data collection starts getting incentivized. They're more incentivized to take more of your data. And then now they're making money through selling all this private information about you. And then, of course, it's still not enough money, right? So the investors come to Zuckerberg and say, all right, it's time. You need to start selling ads, and you need to have people paying to reach. I mean, you got all these users, and you got them in where it counts, you know? So what are you going to do? And so what they did is they came up with the idea that if they limit reach, it will force people to do ad spend. And by being forced to do ad spend, they have increased control over the user networks, and they get more profit. Like, we don't really think about that this is the reality of the social network world that we're in right now. This is how it works. Limit reach to control and hold the audiences hostage. Honestly, it's just really bad ethics. And the problem is it's self-reinforcing. These business models, the more they work, the more profit they make, and therefore the more they will do it. This is one of the reasons why, as much as Meta, now that it's called, has been trying to enter metaverse space and doing all these different things to be different, underneath, it's the same rotten core. It's the same rotting business model. So what's the solution to this kind of stuff? Well, you'll hear a lot of people talk about Web3, right? Is Web3 the solution? And what is Web3 after all, right? So in Web 1, the way that we started with the internet, everybody is a publisher. You publish content, people read your content. Then we entered Web 2. Web 2 says, I will be a big centralized application, but it's interactive. You can publish your content through me, i.e. Facebook, right? And MySpace and etc., Tribe before that. And so in Web 2, we're both being the publisher. Except the problem with Web 2 is that us all being the publisher still means you're under one big centralized king. And that centralized king, guess what? They make all the money from your publishing. Because everything that you share, for the most part, when you're sharing on Facebook, you're doing it for free. You're creating content for other people to make money off of you. Now, of course, you can sell your stuff and drive people to your networks, but we won't go there quite yet. So then Web 3 essentially says, what happens when a user is the controller? When the person that is the creator, they own and control their identity, they own and control their data. It's okay, I promise. It's probably a friend of mine, so don't worry about it. Yeah, good. I know, I like to be sovereign too. It's important. I like to protect my masters as well. It's very good. Or you're, maybe not masters, equals, perhaps. Equals. This is what Web3 is about. It says that you own and control your data and identity, and you are the connection piece. And in Web3, apps have to serve the user rather than the user becoming something like a slave to an app. That means you decide what that app gets as far as your data, as far as your information, and all of that. But is this the answer? And really, is that enough? Well, I'm not so sure. But we are sure about something, and that is that Web 2 is dying. For the last many years, we've had every single headline and every single news group say, Facebook's not too big to fail. Amnesty International, that ranks the most popular messaging apps, gave WeChat, which is the largest social networking communication system in China, a score of 0 out of 100. Just take that in for a second. Then you have Brian Acton, the co-founder of WhatsApp, and he says, I sold my users' privacy to a larger benefit. I made a choice and a compromise, and I live with that every day. That's WhatsApp, guys, because guess what? It's owned by Meta, Facebook, right? So then you have all of these different issues in these different areas and massive account breaches and massive hacks. Again, giant account breaches and hacking is only a really big problem when you have one gigantic server set that's centralized, right? Because all you got to do is hack that one set of servers and you get everybody's data. This is why MySpace lost 360 million accounts to hackers. Facebook, 50 million. Quora, 100 million. And this data, frankly, is fairly old at this point. But are these the solution? Like, does it work to just make another app? You know, Telegram. Let's just do the same thing, right? And then, of course, Telegram did it unethically right from the start. They had a $500 billion raise or whatever, and it was fined away from them. And then you've got these Web3 projects, but they seem to just have this idea that we all want to go hang out on a virtual yacht in virtual land, and that's like going to make us happy. How many of you have ever had a truly joyful experience sitting on a virtual yacht in virtual land? No. You want to be on a real yacht, right? You want to hang out with your real dog, you know? You want to like, we're being, in a way, sort of led down what I like to think of as a sort of dystopian trail. And this dystopian trail is mostly just an idea. It's a momentum that we're in. And so you've got billions of dollars going to create this metaverse. But how many people that are going down that road have actually understood the messages in books like Ready Player One? Everybody talks about Ready Player One. You want the oasis, right? Wow, wouldn't that be cool? You could be anyone, you could be anything, you could be super amazing. But Ready Player One is not about that. Ready Player One is about the fact that if you don't do something different and you don't approach this a different way, and you let people like Mark Zuckerberg be the power of choice leading you into this next world, that's going to become IOI, and this is the world that we're going to end up with. Does that look like a world that you want? No. I don't want to see people all over in cities and more poor, and the only way out is to essentially escape through an oasis metaverse. That's where all the fun and all the connection is happening. No, this is not the answer. So we got to dig deeper. And I like to think there might be a way that the metaverse idea, the idea of having a virtual persona, the idea of having a virtual connection piece, that thing that can bridge us all to talking to each other, to communicating, to connecting, just like we're doing right now, can be a tool for planetary stewardship. Imagine what happens when we rapidly develop planetary visualization technologies and drive that technology towards regenerative social, environmental, and economic impact. So that's the seed of this talk. If that's interesting to you, please stick around, because this is where we are going. What if we can coordinate and gamify planetary transformation with as much success and as much reach as we see in companies like Uber and TaskRabbit and Lyft? The vocational movement is what we're getting at. And here's what it really looks like. We've gone from a time when the 9-to-5 job was just what it is. It's just what everybody accepts, right? And fortunately, we had this amazing transition point called COVID. And COVID is like, well, that might not work for everybody anymore. In fact, it might not work for most people. And right around that time, and in the few years before that, many articles started coming out about how this might not be the structure of the future for the people. And so what we've opened up is this new space called the creative freelancing, work anywhere, anytime you want. Like, just do the work, and as long as it's done, amazing, you're gonna make money. And there's a lot of gig economy connected to that too, because you can choose, all right, I'm gonna accept this drive, I'm gonna go drive and do it, or I'm not, right? And then where that has momentum towards is this idea that we could work everywhere in the world. and that maybe there's more to it. Maybe there's some purpose we can get, some meaning that we can get out of our jobs. Duh. Like, what are we doing if we're not doing work that's meaningful to people and to us and to each other? Like, isn't that life? I mean, I'm speaking to the choir. We're at the Conscious Life Expo, after all. And so, yes, we see these people saying, okay, Harvard Business Review, workers don't feel like a 9-to-5 job is a safe bet. New York Times, 9-to-5 schedule should be the next pillar of work to fall. Forbes, working 9-to-5 is an antiquated relic from the past and should be stopped right now. I really like that title. You know, the death of the workday. Is 9-to-5 working obsolete? The 9-to-5 job is dying. Is the end of 9-to-5 drawing near? I mean, this is NASDAQ, you know, business.com, Forbes, Business Insider. This is not like a side movement thing. This is real. This is what people are dealing with right now. And the vocational movement world and this opening to creativity, to freelancing, to create from anywhere and do anything is probably a lot of you in this room already do this. It's creating courses, teaching people. It's coaching people, supporting them in self-development. It's doing design and arts and freelancing to creatively support people in branding and creation. It's making music and sound effects for film, photography, development, that's building stuff, developing and designing, even architecture. Services of all kinds can be done here. And interestingly, it's actually not just starting up. It's kind of one of the biggest markets on the entire planet. This market is called the creator economy. And as of the end of 2022, 2023 numbers are not perfectly exact across everything quite yet. It's a $1.123 trillion market. This is people sharing ideas and creativity with each other for money. I mean, that's huge. That is gargantuan. You know, when you create a business plan and you go to try to like sell it for investment, if anybody's ever done that, and you get to say, and look, there's a potential $10 billion market for this, right? So multiply that by 100 to get 1 trillion, okay? It's 100 times some of these big markets. It's massive. And the beauty is that you can do it anywhere. You know, you've got artists and designers and entertainers essentially already doing huge with this, really, really working it and really making mastery because they have a creative outlet to share with the world. And it turns out that there's over 435 million people globally right now who basically gig economy freelance their time. They just do it. They do it when they work whenever. They do it whenever they want to play that way. And a lot of that group, turns out, are millennials. They're young people. The transition is looking at, well, where do you want to go? Do you want to end up in that tall office building behind that cubicle? I mean, you've seen all the movies. You watched The Office. You know, you've been through it. Is that the path you want to take? Or do you want to be a creator and go out in the world and be able to adventure and be an influencer? I mean, nowadays, you talk to kids and they're like, what do you want to be for a living? A YouTube influencer. That's what I want to do. I mean, I get it. Do it. You know, like these people that seriously have massive success from this. I just met with Beast Philanthropy the other day. Do you guys know who Mr. Beast is? Okay, Mr. Beast is so big that he walks through airports and kids go running over to him. Mr. Beast is a guy, he's a YouTube personality. You know, he's essentially across all his platforms. He's got about 500 million followers. And his whole thing is breaking into people's thinking, into their minds and say, what if you could do this? Watch this. I'm going to get buried for 3 days. You know, and he gets people to bet on it and make competitions around it, and he gives kids prizes. But he's also doing this whole philanthropic arm where he's leveraging all that attention and all that money to channel it to food banks, to feeding people, to helping local communities. Okay, you seeing what I'm getting at? He gets to do massive good by being a big beacon, a big presence in the world. And he is an example of an ideal for the kids, right? So, we've got this massive movement towards digital nomadship, towards traveling as millennials, towards exploring the world, and essentially doing massive amounts of social media posting and creation and stuff as they're out in the world creating and being a part of it. So what else are millennials into? Well, I love this quote. I am the hero of 1,000 stories. I'm a superhero, an assassin, a soldier. I've slain dragons and traveled through portals. I am a Spartan, a commander, a king. I've saved 1,000 worlds and countless more lives. What am I? I'm a gamer. Yeehaw, son, I'm a gamer. This quote is viral across the internet. Nobody even knows where it came from. It just appeared one day and all these people started putting it and adding it and then ended up in quote lists for gamers and now everybody has it as a profile. That's just like the nature of the gamer world. They don't care. They don't want the recognition so much, but they do care about the meaning and the presence, the ability to have the freedom to be who they are and to do what they want to do. And you got to give it to them. I mean, this is the level of games now. Is like you're literally, it's pretty freaking, I get close to the screen. I'm like, whoa, I can feel the gravity shifting and, this is like a motorcycle game with the new highest level, 8K graphics. It's crazy. And you can ride that kind of thing in VR too. So you're really in it. And boy, I don't know if some of you guys have played some VR games like that you really move around fast. Whew, boy, it can work your stomach. It really can. It can get you. So the online gaming world is a big key for the next generation and for understanding where we are going as far as this cultural shift. And I promise you, it's going to come back to planetary stewardship. Just stay with me. So it turns out that the online gaming world at this point is bigger than movies and music combined. Just let that sink in, because we like to think of like blockbuster movies, box office, these huge numbers by these massive movies, the Marvel Empire, it's just like, just doesn't seem like anything could be bigger than that. Turns out, underground, the gaming world is much bigger than that. Much bigger than that. And the entire music industry. It's just quieter. It tends to happen in people's homes, right? But then now, of course, some of you are probably aware, there's a whole esports movement. And esports is like kids who literally, their entire vocational path in the world is just to be so good at games, they can beat other people, and they win huge competitions where they win millions of dollars for just being a dang good gamer, right? It's pretty appealing as a pathway, but it's not going to get us to planetary stewardship, not the way that it is right now. It is important to notice, though, that a lot of mobile gaming has become the #1 way that people do gaming, and its success is because of good reward systems, meaning that you earn, you grow, you make ranking, you build up, and that's social credibility, and kids love that. People love that, right? Also, you can socially trade, you can barter, you can buy and sell objects and things inside of these worlds. That's useful. And really, the fundamental always comes back to the social connection. So it's actually about how you're getting connected to other people that have similar interests as you. That's really what it always comes back to. But there are many, many new ways that this is opening up. And I'd like to present to you today a vision, and not just a vision, but a project that I've been working on that seeks to unify all these movements and these interests, capturing this momentum of the creator economy, the gig economy, the gaming world, to do something more? What if all of that energy could be harnessed in service to the well-being of our world? That's what I'm going to leave you with today. And this project is called Core Nexus. Core Nexus is founded on the vision that we need a full systems redesign. It's time for a wake-up call. We need to decentralize and secure our social connections and communication systems so that we're not under the thumb of giant centralized mafia. We need to tokenize and gamify education and the vocational job process, how you work in the world, and use that to drive regenerative impact, to drive change in the world. And as one of our investors, David Hofstadter, likes to say, you know, in the end, what you're really doing is creating this magical key to unlock things by tracking impact, telling stories, and tipping the activist. What does it look like to be someone who's made a difference in the world? And guess what? Getting paid for it. Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't it be something if we could actually see the largest movement the world has ever had rise up to actually making the planet that we're all envisioning for the future? A planet that's healthy, regenerative, sustainable, where advanced technology and ancient wisdom, where nature and life, all of it is honored and interconnected? Isn't that what we want? Yes. Good. So it's not going to work to do it the old way. The old way is first order change. And first order change only gets us so far. We shoot money, we try to make impact out there, we just say, yeah, the Red Cross will handle it, right? Yeah, right. FEMA will handle it, you know, like this big charity group will handle it. But this doesn't make lasting change, right? If you want to start making change in societies and in cultures, you need to move to second order level change. This is a term coined by David Gershon. He's one of our partners. He works with the Empowerment Institute and the Reinventing the Planet Initiative. In fact, he got millions and millions of houses converted to have solar in LA as one of his city projects called Cool Blocks, right? And he came up with this idea that if you start at the bottom with you and me, the people on the ground, and we make our initiatives bottom up, so we as a neighborhood say, you know what? I'm tired of the power company cutting off our power every time that it gets windy up here in the mountains. Let's all band together and let's get solar put in our whole community together. That's second order change strategy. It says, can you help empower and educate people enough to make the difference themselves, to do it themselves? You really want to change the whole world? Try to change 1 million people's minds. It's really hard. But if you change your mind and the people around you change their mind with you, all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier. And so we have this interesting dilemma where we have to sort of unify this top-down communication strategy of reaching the masses and this bottom-up strategy of gamifying and educating and growing ourselves into the people that are the ones we've been waiting for. You get it? And then we're making third-order change, where the self, the individual, is the thing that is the powerhouse. We have a planet of superheroes. Yeah, I'm down with that. Sounds like Star Trek. Sounds really fun. So I believe we're ready for a system to support this. And this system that we're developing is called Core Nexus. It's a mission-centric 4D social operating system that gamifies regenerative impact and community. And, you know, we could do it like another carbon copy of Facebook, or we could do something completely different, where people are stars, where the collections of their ideas are planets in their star system, where your hub is not just a feed of endless memes, but actually a control center like you'd have if you were Iron Man. And you've got a planet tracker, you've got the missions that are local to you highlighted, you can see featured collections and works of friends and others, And everything that you do is gamified. So, once you import your Facebook data ball, which will allow you to do, you can take all your data back from Facebook, the entire thing, load it into your decentralized dashboard. You can take your whole Instagram back. You can take your whole Twitter or X back. Now you own and control everything you've ever created all the way back to the beginning of that platform. Now it's starting to look a little easier to make this kind of transition, because nobody wants to leave all the stuff they've ever created. No, we want to bring our network with us to the future, right? And we offer free education. So we're partnering with all these educational groups to create free NVC education, free trauma healing work, free flow fundamentals, so that part of the heart of the social experience is actually growing and developing yourself. Now, this whole thing is designed as, a morphable, interoperable dashboard. So you've got the ability to control settings or control and filter your content or zoom in and out or change your views and themes. And I'll show you those kinds of things in a moment. And as you do things on the platform, one of the main central key covenants of our whole thing is tracking impact. And that means understanding where in the world missions are happening and being able to join them. Now, it seems like a little bit of a crazy idea at first to say, what if anyone and anywhere in the world could create a mission and anyone could join that mission, and the mission could be about anything that makes the world a better place, and if all the people join that mission, they're going to do it and they're going to get paid for it. And then there's going to be a story about that mission getting accomplished that other people go, whoa, that was really cool, dude. And they like it, right? Well, there's one problem in that whole statement, right? And that's, how do they get paid? How are you going to pay all these people to do all these missions to change the world? This was a tough problem, but it's solvable. And I'm going to show you how exactly we can solve that. But first, I want to explain, when I talk about impact, I'm not just talking about cleaning up, some, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's going to get better. So, yes. So essentially, when we talk about impact, we're not just talking about a river cleanup. We're talking about river and beach cleanups. We're talking about tree planting and planetary stewardship and land stewardship. We're talking about health and food. We're talking about education and learning, gender and sexuality studies. We're talking about fire prevention. We're talking about arts and expression as a means for change, infrastructure, production, governance, justice, principles. You want to know where this map comes from? It's basically all the SDGs reformatted in a way that actually makes sense, because if any of you guys have studied the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, oh boy, like not really good sector points to pour gigantic chunks of money. And that's why there's literally trillions of dollars sitting dedicated to the SDGs that hasn't done anything. Trillions of dollars, right? So we're mixing that with Barbara Marx Hubbard's 12-sector wheel model. She was a visionary futurist, amazing, saw all of society as part of this wheel. And we've also got other models, like Vincent Arena has done a huge amount of work to start showing how impact can be more like mixing together different elements in a periodic table, and that you can actually build and bridge lots and lots of ideas of how we can make change by better understanding both individual sectors at environment level, social level, and mental or systemic levels, but also by creating intersections between them, connections between two spaces. Because yes, it is our organizational systems that determine how well we fight fires. You understand? They're super deeply connected. And so how do we channel money to impact in a way that can make a difference? Well, we came up with this idea that since there is $1 trillion a year that is people buying and selling digital products from each other, what if we just made a special piece of tech that would let you sell any kind of digital product, but split royalties to your friends automatically, So how many people out there have ever made an online course? Any of you in this room made an online course? Okay, great. And did you have somebody create graphics for your course at all? And did you have somebody do filming for your course? And did you have somebody do any music or media like that for your course, or did you use some media? Yes. And so when you created that course, you had to pay all those people, right? And you either pay them all up front, which gets pretty hard, or you figure out a way to give them some royalties on the course. I'm going to give you 10% if you make all the graphics or whatever, right? But then you've got ongoing bookkeeping. You got to keep up with it. As long as you're selling that course, you've got to deal with that. So we thought, well, what if you could just assign that royalty table right up front and automatically split to those people every single time it sells, money automatically goes there. Wouldn't that be a game changer? I mean, that would change a lot of things in my world as someone who's built academies for the last 10 years, giant schools. We always have collaboration, right? And then, you know, it gives a mechanism for us to take a transaction fee, which can be a small, like 1 to 3 to 5%, depending on the scale of the product. Great, money making for my business. Awesome, cool. But here's the real magic, is that every single royalty table requires that 1% up to 100% goes into whatever area of impact someone cares about. So what starts to happen is every time something sells, you're driving money towards regenerative impact. And this is really, really interesting because when you start to kind of step back and look at this whole thing, and you look at the whole social media network, what's happening? People are posting and posting and posting and posting and posting and posting and posting, right? And a lot of times over here, they're selling their stuff, right, on their website. And so they're posting and posting, and they're like, post, hey, go over there. Posting, hey, go over there. Post, hey, go over there, right? Like, go to my website. And then when people go to their website, unfortunately, you have to keep up with those plugins and WordPress. You got to pay MailChimp or Constant Contact for the mailing list. Why? Because you don't trust that you can reach the people on social media. So you got to pay for that, right? And then on top of all of that, you usually have to pay a video service to host your videos, plus more if you want to make those videos private inside your courses. You know what I'm talking about. She's back there going, oh my God, yeah, he's speaking my language here, right? And so we thought, well, what would happen if instead, every time you create a post on your social media experience, let's just say, you could sequence it. You could say, well, I'm going to make this post, and then you're like, you know what? Actually, this goes really good with this post I did 5 years ago. I'm going to put that into sequence number 2. And then you're like, wow, this is starting to look like a really good thing. So now I'm going to add a third part and a fourth part. And suddenly, before you know it, you've created a whole episodic content sequence. And maybe it's valuable enough that you're like, you know what, I should charge $10 for this. Or I should charge $20 for this. Or maybe it's a bunch of amazing content that you created and gave away for free 10 years ago and has been on Instagram or Facebook all this time. And now that you've taken it back, you're like, that's a $100 course right there. And I'm going to sell it as a course. So now you have this idea that inside the social network experience right there, you can turn a post into any kind of course, any kind of sequence, any kind of episodic content, and sell it and do it right inside your social media, which saves thousands of dollars of people building websites, saves all the money of trying to get the mailing lists and all of that, because they can actually reach the audience. So that's one side of this, is doing that from the social media creative process. On the other side is the ability to split royalties. Now it turns out, thanks to technology like Holochain, which is basically decentralized technology, and it's even next level Web3, because a lot of Web3 is still kind of centralized. Did you ever think about this with Bitcoin? Just to pause you for a second, before I keep going. Did you ever think about the fact that right now, the idea of innovation that we have is that we go from, I hand you a $100 bill, cool, peace, we're done, right? To, I hand you a $100 bill, but now we have to let every single person in the entire world know that I gave you that $100 bill, right? And that's the only way to validate that it was a real $100 bill, or that I'm real, or that you're real, or the transaction happened. We literally, this is how Bitcoin works. And I'll point it out to you later about how much energy this is using on the planet. It's insane. It's insane. It's going to the idea that, like, just for us to be safe handing each other money, we have to update the ledgers of millions of people and computers and billions, literally, around the world in order for us to do a transaction. And that's why the transaction's expensive. That's why it's huge computing power. That's why it's literally using more energy than all of the banks in all of the world combined. It's insane. Like, and I'm talking about all the buildings and all the skyscrapers and all the everything. It's insane. So with things like Holochain, we change that around. And I'm going to talk about Holochain a little bit more later. But the magic here is that when you create a product using this kind of system, you can also license, so to speak, somebody else's creation. So they may make images or music or a video clip or that really cool AI thing or whatever. They might have it where you can actually select to use it in a product that you're going to sell. Now, in the past, that would be a lot of trouble. You'd have to reach out to them, figure out what you're going to buy it for, unless they're selling it on a marketplace. You got to make sure you pay them ongoing as it grows, you know, because maybe it becomes really big and then you forgot about that guy, right? Now you're in some serious trouble, right? So what if we can attach it digitally right there, mint it as part of the non-fungible token of the object that's for sale, so that you can have remixes 1,000 levels deep. This person did an image, that image got integrated into this image got integrated into this video got integrated into this course, the course sells, and everybody gets paid all the way down the line. 1,000 levels deep. Now, just to give you another lens on that, as an idea, as a perspective, think about what it looks like if you had a guy creating a drum beat in the middle of Africa and he like uploads it. And he's so excited about this cool little drum beat. You know, he's just sharing it on social media. But right now, what happens? You got a Taylor Swift or somebody's, agent. They scrape it. They're like, this is a dope drum beat. We're going to just use it. Nobody knows about the guy in Africa. But with a system like this, you can't ignore the guy in Africa. So now the royalty is minted, it's connected, and when that drum beat makes it through 20 different remixes and European trance scene, right? And there's a right? Like that guy's passion makes it to the Taylor Swift song or the Gaga song, boom, sells 1 million copies. Guess what? That entire village is getting transformed. Do you understand? You see the connection? So let's take it even deeper. NFT is non-fungible token. Like a painting is a non-fungible token. It has value, but the value is not assigned to a specific dollar amount. It's speculative, to a sense. It's like a piece of art. And really, anything that you can imagine that is a financial agreement can be looked at as an NFT, as a digital way to secure it. So if I have a contract with my gardener, I could sign an NFT contract instead of a physical contract and have the same services, except that it's also recorded in a way that paper is not, right? That paper contract might get lost. An NFT contract is baked into my ledger and his ledger, so it's solid, and it can't be ignored. It can't pretend that it's not there. I had a lawsuit once with a landlord of mine in Marin when I was living north of San Francisco. And you know what they had the audacity to, well, one, steal our deposit, two, tell us that they're threatening us for $50,000. We took perfect care of this house, like it was ridiculous. The only way around it was a lawsuit. And what they had the audacity to do is to show up in court and to create a fake lease with fake signatures, pretending those were our signatures. That was a lease that had different terms than the one that they wanted, that they actually had, right? And we were in the house for like 6 years. So yeah, like paper gets lost along the way sometimes. But fortunately, we still had enough evidence and our signatures to prove that this piece of paper that they put on the table was false. That can't happen in this kind of structure. So let's really get to the magic here. How does this really work? Well, Unify, as I mentioned, we do these massive global campaigns. We get millions of people together to do different things at different times around the world. World Water Day, International Day of Peace, Indigenous Peoples Day. It's about collective action in places around the world. So we always have artists and creators who are like, yeah, I want to create a piece of art. I want to sell this piece of art in order to support this vision, to support this movement. And so what happens is we leverage that and we say, okay, create the thing, create the art, create the course, create the music, create the film, and automatically share royalties with the community and automatically split money into the water sector in order to fund impact. So now when someone buys this thing, the buyer and the seller both earn impact points. That means buyers become incentivized to buy products that give more to impact because they're going to earn more impact points. See where I'm going? Next level is, instead of the money just sitting there in the impact fund, we say, let's attach it as a bounty on a real world mission. So now that art sold, it created some capital. That capital is in a fund. It's there with all these other funds, all this other capital pouring in, as well as from, third-party impact groups. And it attaches as a mission. And now you've got a person who can come and join that mission, do the mission with their friends or a new group of people they just met. They take photos, they do the selfie thing, they pick up trash, they're like, look at this, river's cleaned up. Aren't we freaking cool, right? And yes, they are too cool for freaking school because now they've also just earned money, they've earned badges, and they've earned points. They've ranked up in the social network system. How did they rank up? They did good, and they made a real social connection. Kind of a no-brainer, right? Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So essentially, this story really orbits around what happened over the last 10 years with Unify, because when we built it to this massive, massive audience, essentially we had to figure out how to work around the throttling that Facebook was doing to us. And the way that we did it is by building networks, real networks of real people. Think about it. It's amazing. You make real world connections and social connections get stronger in social networks. So we built a network of 30,000 organizations. And we built a network of many, many hundreds of pages that will co-share and co-post. So now we have 100 million reach per month. Per month. So the audience is absolutely there. And they all want a better alternative than Facebook. It is possible that this could happen. And of course, because of what we're doing, and I'm starting to be outspoken about it, we're getting nominated for things like the Earthshot Prize. 2023, we were nominated, we didn't win it. 2024, this year, maybe, rooting for it, And essentially, the goal here is to give people awareness and give people a system that can actually drive the change. Now, we're still building the system. So we're getting nominated for prizes before the system's even ready because we know the concept can work. And the communities that we're talking to, which is, by the way, Cool City Challenge that's building all these solar panels across cities and doing like regenerative work with women in other countries, to Turbulent, to Unify, to Open World Alliance, to Get Help, which is in 19 contracted US states doing homeless recovery, to Tribalize, which is event partners, to Blue Planet Alliance. That's Hank Rogers, the guy who made Tetris famous. Did you guys see the new Tetris movie documentary? Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's about Hank, and it's about him trying to overcome the Russian Empire, to get Tetris out to the world. It's brilliant. So the alliance is forming. And I'm sharing this with you because I want you to be prepared for what's coming in the next phase here. That there is going to be a massive migration to new kinds of social connection, new kinds of economy, and new kinds of networking. And that's if we're successful, which I certainly intend to be. And I want to just go back and reprise this idea here with you for just a minute so that you can really see this. So you've got a bunch of people that are separate and disconnected. One of them tries to sell something. Now somebody else buys that thing, and money flows into impact. And the seller earns impact points. But now somebody else entirely can say, I care about the thing that this person donated to in impact. They can say, I care about water too. And they create a mission. And then another group of people, essentially, in this impact council say, that mission looks good. I'm going to attach a bounty to it. Great. Now, basically, up to 10 people can join that mission, and every person who completes it will earn $100. Not bad for an afternoon of work, right? And now, you've got a bunch of other separate, disconnected, totally don't know each other people that come together and they join that mission. They become part of it together. And now, as they do that, they take on the mission, they do the work, they take some photos, they take some video. All of that rolls back up to the Impact Council as a story. That story is validation of change, validation of impact. Did you know that there's $100 trillion a year dedicated to impact, most of which doesn't actually move because there's no way to validate that impact actually happening on the ground? This is one of the biggest problems that we face in making the world a better place. We don't actually know how to validate that good occurred. We don't know how to validate that a change actually, especially not only a first order change, but a second order change. The only way you can validate that is socially, social community. It's not getting on the news, as Peggy says, right? And so now we validate that impact. We create a mission team that now knows each other, that are now friends, that are interconnected and purpose aligned. So these separate, disconnected people are now connected in real life around doing real good and making real money while doing it. It's a good vision. I think it's good. And essentially we transform this canopy by tracking this. And tracking it not only, for the people doing the missions to let you join the missions on the planet, but also tracking it for the groups that have massive amounts of money to give to missions. Because why should we be the only ones channeling impact funds from people's donations? No, we can leverage that $100 trillion impact money and just say, here, go ahead, put a bounty on whatever mission you think is going to help move forward your charitable vision. You get it? And so that's one of the big ways that we really change it. And you make it so simple that literally anyone can just look at a tree planting mission, see that it needs a bounty added to it, you add a bounty to it, and boom, congratulations, you're now funding impact projects. That's one way to do it if you're not just selling it a product. And then guess what? You earn a badge. And when you earn that badge, now we change the idea of the social network profile from being about, hey, look at how many followers I have, to, well, no, check out how many trees I've gotten planted with my last music album. Dog, I planted like 8,000 trees from my music album. Right? Like you feel that? Feels good. And then like how many solar panels have I created, or how many rivers have I cleaned up? So changing the way that we focus on the social media experience is really, really important. And we can take that all the way to the gaming world, to the metaverse world. And that is where there's a huge opportunity for lots of businesses to get involved in this. So I was in discussion with a partner. They have 5 people from Marvel working on their team. And we're like, is Marvel interested in impact? And they're like, of course, yes. I mean, Disney wants to prove that it's a good force in the world. It needs to prove that to the kids. And so we're talking and we came up with this idea, well, what if, Marvel creates an Aquaman suit for the Avatar that you only earn after you've cleaned up 10 rivers? How many kids do you think are going to go clean up more rivers just to earn the freaking Aquaman suit? Gamification can look like lots of things, But it's really about incentivization, about rewards, about honoring people from where they come from and where they're going in the world. And I also believe that we've been stuck looking at a two-dimensional flat surface for far too long. We need to start opening this up and opening it out. And one of the ways to do that in a traditional sense is creating visualization of data, right? Seeing things in a new way, being able to explore the internet like we used to do, clicking on links to travel to the next link, to travel to the next link. Well, now those links are like wormholes, and you're traveling between star systems, and you're exploring the entire planets, the worlds of the people who are the stars of your galaxy, right? And so it's not just about that, though. It's about also learning how we can flatten it. And am I still working here? Yes. Oh, yep, something's happening. There we go. And essentially coming to an awareness that the way that media can look can change. Why should I decide this is the way that everybody should look at a social network? No, it should be up to you. What do you want to see it as? Do you want to see it as, rings with your different content types, and you can scroll through and experience those different content types from text to writings to photos to whatever you want as if they're, part of a planetary orbit? Or should we switch to the classic Pinterest style view, right? Or should we look at it as Facebook style view? Or should we look at it as Instagram style view? Or should we do hex grids? Why not? They can be color coded. They're really fun, right? Or switch, or zoom in or out or whatever. And now imagine that this blue background is not there. And instead, what you have is a dashboard that you've just pulled a pair of glasses out of your pocket, or from your thing. You pop on that pair of glasses, and you've got a full Iron Man style interface to access everything you need really fast on the fly when you're sitting at the, cafe table. And even imagine that you're visualizing data with a friend across the table, floating in space in front of you. Now think about quick collaboration and getting off the device instead of scroll. Well, that's cool. Scroll. Right? You get it? And so think of this as a way, and this is just one approach, but we have these dashboard panels. You can pull out your communication system from one side, chat with people, create groups of chat, tag those groups, see what the people inside of your chat group are creating. I mean, gosh, how many of you guys are on WhatsApp threads that have shared cool content? Do you have any idea how to get back to the content that was created months ago, years ago? No, there's no visualization, no tool to see this and understand it. So what happens when you give people those tools? What happens when you let them not only collect things like images and say, I want to add an image to this panel? No, instead, what you could collect someone's entire Twitter feed. You could collect someone's entire Facebook feed, someone's entire Pinterest feed, and say, I want to have this person's ideas updating my stream, this stream. Not every stream, but just this one stream, so that I can have some other person's ideas updating a different stream, right? Flexibility and toolkitting. This is really what this is all about. And so I'm showing you a little bit more bits of the interface here, including the creation of community-based tokens. Community tokenization is really, really powerful. And the reason that it's so powerful is that all of our community economy work is based on currency dynamics. And one of the things that happens in local economies and communities is that you have an urban outfitters come and drop in on a small town, and guess what? All the money that goes in that urban outfitters leaves that town. This is why all the small towns are suffering, because large corporate stores come in and that money doesn't stay there. It's not like the employees from town are making all the cash for Walmart, right? That's rolling out to Walmart. And so local economics is critical, and this is a really important piece of this whole picture. Imagine you as a community can create your own custom token for your network, for your community, and you can reward and incentivize people however you want with that particular token, right? And what if instead of relying on some trusted authority that's like, oh, I really hope you guys keep our money if I give it to you because I'm going to buy a token, right? And then those guys go and trade that money and they go spend it and they go invest it. And then guess what happens? Billions of dollars or trillions of dollars get lost overnight. What if instead we go back to the oldest trick in the book and we say, when you buy something, your money goes straight into a trust. The seller, if the seller takes their tokens as payment for that thing they sold, you sold a course, well, if you're getting tokens, those tokens are beneficiary interest certificates. Therefore, you are a beneficiary of a trust that is holding your value for you. This is huge because it also means we can buy and sell and do all the things. And whenever you want your money back, you just burn those tokens. Those tokens go away forever and you get your money into your bank account. And therefore, that money is always backed, always solid, long term. It's better than asset backing as we think of it now in tokenization. But I wasn't going to spend too much time on all of that. I will say that from a community standpoint, it also enables powerful things like community staking. The ability for a group of people to stake in a community and say, I'm a part of this community. I'm in on this community. And for that group of people that stake in that community, that in other words, save a group of tokens saying, I'm putting it into this community as my investment to this community, then they can actually earn a percentage from the royalty table that goes to that community. So if I'm a part of Unify's creator collective and I'm staked in Unify and Unify uses its 100 million reach to sell my product out to the masses, guess what? I'm going to make not only the money of my product, the community money goes into that community, and then everybody is staked in that community gets a stake of that. So everybody wins, right? This is huge. It's game-changing for the whole idea of how we do community economics. And a lot of this, as I said, is empowered because of a project like Holochain. Holochain's already had $50 million invested into its development, and here's really why it's such a game changer. Right now, in Ethereum, the highest gas money wins. In other words, everybody's trying to shove their transactions into one chain. In Bitcoin, essentially, you've got everybody in the world trying to save to the same blocks, etc. Massive energy use, massive waste. It's basically, we have to record our $100 exchange for everybody in the world, and it uses so much energy, it's basically now over the total of all world banks combined. You know how many skyscrapers there are out there, right? Like, this is supposed to be lightweight digital currency. Why is it taking this much energy? It's because of that validation problem. So Holochain just says, well, what if instead of you having to share that transaction with everyone in the world, what if instead I just validate that you are who you say you are and that your money was minted, it has its own blockchain, that money started somewhere, and now that money is going to me. And if I choose to spend that money, then the app or the bank or the app, the place that I'm choosing to spend it will validate that it had an origin as well. It's that simple. All you have to do is be able to track, just like on a $100 bill, oh yeah, I hold it up to the light, this thing was actually minted. You know, it actually came from a bank, is minted and used. But of course, it's hilarious because in our economic system here in the United States, what do? We just print more money, right? There's no stability behind it. There's no goal behind it or whatever. We're already outside of the world where those foundational economics even have a real world constituent component, right? But our creativity, our power, our creation, this is the value of the future. It is the art, it is the trust, it is our communities that hold value. That's where the magic is. It never was in a golden rock. Never. It's about us and our perception and our connections to each other that we make. That's where the real value is. And that's what things like Holochain began to restore. because essentially they say the apps define the rules, users store their own data, there's no consensus bottlenecks, you can share at scale, it works like BitTorrent. So you know how these days if everybody goes to try to watch a video on or a certain website that launches, or it was this way a lot, everybody that goes there, it crashes it, right? Because all those people are going to one server. But with Holochain and this approach, it says the more popular something is, the faster it loads. Why? Because when I watch that movie, I'm taking a little bit of that data in my own system. And somebody else watches it, they have a little bit. Somebody else watches it, they have a little bit. And it happens to be in my own network. So now the film, the video, everything runs faster the more people are interested in something. It's like completely inverted, right? And this kind of toolkit, because it's so lightweight, because there's zero transaction fee, because the cost is just the electricity running your computer, it can be used for all kinds of other types of currency. So you can use it for trust currencies, which is what we've been building for the last few years, called Trust Graph. You can use it for content, you can use it for tagging, you can use it for medical records, DIDs, you can use it for all kinds of things. So Holochain, in summary, is really a big, big game changer for the type of what we think of as blockchain going to something that's actually the future, which is essentially distributed networks. And that's what it's really, really all about, is distributed networks. And Trust Graph is a really crucial piece here because essentially we need to be able to validate that people are who they say they are, right? Like that's one of the ways that we can overcome fake news, fake identities, bots, AI, obviously, right? And so Trust Graph is a system that we created already that's in use in several production products and that we're improving, which essentially says that anyone can create a trust claim. That trust claim is not black or white. It's, I trust Peggy in the area of, you know, spirituality and meditation. She's got a lifetime of work in that area, right? And I trust someone else, I trust Zoe in being an astrologer. Now my trust in them is different, right? Like meditation and astrology are two different things. So each person that I have a relationship with in the world, I have a different kind of trust with. Now imagine that all digitally capable. And there is no centralized system saying this is your trust or this is not. I decide what I trust and what I don't. Me, always. And I can change it because that's the real world, my friends, isn't it? I'm always the person who decides whether something is trustworthy or is not. This is the key. And you can use this kind of thing to do a lot of powerful stuff. You can use it to say, okay, well, if I trust this person in weightlifting, and they trust this person in physical exercise, and they trust this person in weights, and this person in this, now I can access content faster and easier and more efficiently. And why is that useful? Well, because Google is also a problem, isn't it? Why is the top 5 results on Google the top 5? Is that because I trust that information or other people trust that information? No. In fact, if I'm looking for a good physics paper, I really don't care what's on the top 5 of Google. I want to know what my best physicist friends think is the next paper. That's why Trust Graph. And it's powerful in ways that I won't even get into. It can be used for credit ratings, for peer-to-peer groups and communities to build credit with each other, not with just centralized organizations, but it can help with that too. It can be used to provide claims and evidence for fake news, supply chain validation, refugee credentials, and essentially also the future of governance. So we have a particular product, this particular piece we're working with GitHelp around, and in GitHelp, they're using Trust Graph to allow a sovereign agent, which is what they call a homeless person, to give trust or not to the homeless recovery residents, and vice versa. So recovery residents can say, yes, they did good, I joined that addiction program. The agent can say, well, the food was crap, right? And then the recovery residents can say, nope, they made progress here. And then the agent can say, actually, the counselor was awesome, right? So it creates a conversation, And in that conversation, you have an immutable ledger that's building trust, which eventually, with something like Get Help, those homeless people build a recovery resume so that they can go do missions. And guess who is the most powerful mission creators and mission actors in the world? The people that have had nothing. The people that have been stomped on, left at the bottom, kicked out, lost everything. When they go through the transformation into leadership and into vocation, it changes everything. And they become ambassadors to the other homeless people. They become ambassadors to change. And, you know, all of this can be done with gamification. Like in the Guardian Alliance, we have badge sequences. So essentially you're earning badges as you're going through different courses and you're growing and changing. You're filling out your whole set of badges, showing what a cool superhero you are, right? And, you know, go through courses and you can complete those courses and you earn different capabilities. And steps along the way. And as you're going, you're building yourself from this like very simple looking thing all the way up to the more complex badges and more complex systems. And so when we look at this from a mass perspective, we can see kids to high school, college, to leaders in the world being a progression. Right? That at every age, if we're gamified and being better people and making the world a better place, then we're actually working through life like a game. And if the point of the game is to do good and to make positive regenerative impact and to make change, and that's going to get you the exposure that you want, that's going to get you the fame that you want, that's going to get you the money that you want, guess what? People are going to do it. Because it's going to be the route to success. It's a new kind of dream. It's a new kind of choice to participate in the world. And it just comes down to very simple things: bounties, awards, missions, earning capital along the way. And what we start to do is change the psychology of the masses from this idea that the quick dopamine hits of a like or a following is far, far less impactful than the new kinds of metrics of being someone who has created regenerative impact, that's made progress, that's evolved themselves and grown in all kinds of fantastic ways. And we envision new kinds of profiles where all of that kind of thing becomes possible. And you can change and you can morph and you can make it look like however you want. You can make it whatever you want to be and to become. And so I'm going to pull back here to the end here and just say, you know, in these last few minutes that our initial goals with this are ambitious. We look at the ability to change 8% of our monthly reach on Facebook. If we can take 8% of that reach and turn that into people doing this kind of work, buying, selling, creating on Core Nexus, joining missions on Core Nexus, it's $500 million in revenue for us a year. And that also means $500 million potentially of impact money, which also means millions of paid days of people doing good in the world, getting paid $100 for the project. And that's more than enough in some areas. In other areas, it'll be like a few hours of beach cleanup equals $100. That's like LA. You want to clean up Venice Beach, right? You know, like you got to pay really good for that, right? And so we understand those economics and we understand the nature of that. And essentially, we've made a lot of progress. We've now raised actually $880K pre-seed. We're raising $2.6 million. For those of you that are interested in investment and things like that, you can talk to me later. But essentially, it's my honor and pleasure to share this vision of Core Nexus with all of you here today. I have complete packages for anybody who wants to get involved. There's some cards up here I invite you to take. It's got a briefing QR code on it. There's a mailing list right there if you want to learn more about my work. And essentially this weekend, I'm super active here. I'm on several more panels, AI panel tomorrow. Tomorrow night I'll be DJing a dance party. On Monday, I'm doing essentially a spiritual sciences talk about this kind of thing. Like what are the inner transformations and practices and ancient knowledge that we can tap into to be better leaders. I'm also announcing this weekend the upcoming publishing of my book, The Dragon Key, which is basically my first book, thank you, Very, very excited. Bringing it out in the year of the dragon, which seems appropriate and right, and thank you for that. That was a collaboration between me and some AI. The dragon here was some AI, but I did all the sigils and the symbols and all of that stuff, so it was very fun to create. And I'm doing a retreat coming up in May, and I'm just opening this up to the public to begin to get involved with it, so you'll be able to access it very soon, but we're going to Ibiza to essentially one of the most powerful magnetic islands on Earth. You know, the third most powerful magnetic site on Earth is Esvedra, right off the coast of Ibiza. It's a really, really powerful spot, and we're going to do a bunch of Jedi training and self-development work while we're there. I'm also there for a Hollow Movement conference where I'm working with a lot of those leaders and those companies and organizations that I showed you on that map. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you all so much for attending. Appreciate you. Thank you. And I'll leave you with this idea that, you know, I believe that we can do this. I believe that the world is ready to step into true planetary stewardship. And it just takes us opening the right doors, working together, collaborating in the right ways, and anything is possible. Just believe in each other. We can do it together. Sound good? All right, have a great weekend. Thank you so much.